Claudia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Well, it's quite filled, so I'm very happy about that. It's also quite intimate, not so many people. I'm going to present some work that I do at Philips. My name is Claudia Lieshout. I'm a trend researcher at Philips Experience Design. And this presentation will give you kind of a tour through my work. Oh, you can't hear me?
Your microphone's on.
Oh.
Yeah, it is on.
Oh.
Yeah. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Good. So let's start. I thought it was good before diving deeper into my work to give a bit of an introduction of Philips Experience Design. And this is our mission, probably known by more people. So we strive to work healthier and more sustainable through innovation, and our goal is to improve the lives by 3 billion people a year by 2030. Now you can imagine that's a high level statement, and you can fill it in many ways. So we thought for our function, the function I work for, design, to make that a little bit more specific. So to translate into something that we as design can work for. So we translate it into, we believe designing meaningful experience makes the difference in improving people's health and well-being. And I will get back to the meaningful experience because it's really the core of my work. To tell you a little bit about our department, our function, we are the oldest, one of the oldest design agencies in the world. I think we're getting close to the 100 years. And we are in quite some locations. As you can see all over the world, we have 5 design hubs. We have 9 experience design studios, so that relates a bit on the size and the purpose. And we have approximately 35 nationalities, which is quite a bit. So all kinds of different cultures working next to each other. And we have approximately 600 designers in total worldwide. Of course, the headquarters are in Eindhoven, where we are right now. And this gives a glimpse of the studios where we are in. Oops, that's a little bit later. And this is our studio in Cambridge. It does it by itself, I think. And this is my home. So we're located on the high-tech campus. We won a big award this year. I wanted to share that with you. I hope I'm still in control. We won the Red Dot Award for this year for Best Design Team. So that was really work. And we were very happy to receive this award as a design team. So it was really a celebration moment for us. And to dive a little bit into these experiences, as I said, meaningful, still quite broad. So how can you think of some design principles? And that is something that we can use as our anchor points. So in order to design meaningful experience, you really have to empathize deeply with the user. Not just knowing the user, but get like under their skin. We also have to think of, because we are active in the healthcare area, to think of holistic care. So think of systems. It's not just about point solutions. It's something that's all connected together. And we also have to come up with technology innovations that are really, human. They're not something that we have to work with, but something that really fits our daily reality and really brings us benefit. We have quite some diverse teams, and we have, because we are so big, we have the luxury of having all these different aspects of design in our function. That goes from user experience design, even design business leadership, brand and communication, product design, of course. That used to be the biggest team, but now I have to say that the emphasis is more here in user experience design. And the part that I'm active in is a design research part, and the design research part consists also of different little teams again, and trend research is one of them. And that is important to have all these different aspects together, because it really depends on the projects and the challenges that you have, what kind of expertises you have to bring in. And this is almost like the core of our work, mapping out or kind of designing journeys that will tell us really about where the problem is. And the healthcare context is a very complex context with very many different stakeholders. And in order to see really beneficial and if something can be really meaningful, we really have to have that context. We really have to see what is actually happening and where can we really create a benefit. Of course, if you map out a journey with different stakeholders, it gives you the current context. It shows you how it is now. And where my work comes in is the trend part, which means it can be now like this, but in the future it might be different. So what effect will the future have on the current journey that, for example, a patient will go through? And that is the part that I wanted to talk about actually today, to show you some weak signals of change, to give you some inspiration maybe or some extra knowledge. It's important to know that within Philips we have a lot of experts on healthcare and a lot of people with even medical backgrounds, and it's our purpose as the design team to bring the outside-in view, or at least as the trend research team, I have to say. So what is happening in the outside world and what could be of influence of the future of health, something that we have to prepare ourselves for the future. And especially in this time, I would say, it has even been more challenging than ever. As a team, we work towards reports, we work towards presentations to inform different teams about the future and what they need to do to activate it. But because we have been in this COVID period already for quite some time, it was quite hard to say, this is the future and it means that this and this is going to happen. And the question as a team was, tell us after COVID, what do we need to do, what do we need to prepare for? And we were quite thinking like, after? I'm not so sure if there will be, and maybe it will be more like living with COVID for quite a while. So what we did is we shifted a little bit different in looking into what is currently happening, what are the current changes. In Dutch we say voortschrijdend inzicht, progressive insight, not exactly the same. To monitor and to keep tracking what was happening, because for us it was also quite confusing and we had to be very resilient and very flexible, also in our work. And we started to wonder like, okay, after COVID or living with COVID, probably during the time that we were in COVID, we made ourselves some goede voornemens. I'm going to live more healthy, I'm going to take more breaks, I'm not going to work so hard anymore, I'm going to be much more sustainable, so less traveling. But what we saw this summer, and I'm not sure if, I don't think it's still the case, but this summer it was like a shocking thing to see, that all of a sudden everybody was like, yes, we can travel again. So yes, we had all these good intentions, but yeah, they didn't last so long. But when it came to health, people are still quite consistent. And what we see is that during the COVID period, people started to, because they could not go to gyms and out, or let's say to gyms and doing their sports, that running and hiking became super popular. And that still seems to remain somehow. But what we also see is that during 2020 and a little bit later, that one of the biggest search items that were on the internet was self-care. So people really wanted to know, so how can I take care of myself? Are there things that I can take control of? What is it that I need to do? And that term has really been trending, and it meant that it had like, double or triple the time that people were searching for this. And that was important because there were coming in. Also, World Health Organization gave us some tips on how to stay stay physically active and our mental health, etc., etc., quitting tobacco. But more than ever, this information, giving this information has become important. And especially during COVID, we realized, yeah, what is the truth? What is healthy actually? And what does it mean to me? And one of the other things I wanted to mention also is that staying healthy is about prevention. And of course, prevention is quite a difficult term because it means you're not getting sick. And a lot of the, let's say, the business models are based on if you are sick, that's where we. And it always has been a difficult. Then how are you? What is your monetizing? But still, prevention has gained more awareness, and it's something that hopefully will grow in the future. And one of the things that we already saw upcoming, and this was already before COVID, are these places where you can go to when you are healthy, but you want to stay healthy. And this is you could say a private clinic. It's called Partially Health. It's from New York City, and you pay a membership. So you pay a fee of, I think, 150 euros. So it's not for everybody, per month. But then you can walk in and out whenever you like, and you can have appointments that are approximately 45 minutes, which is like much longer than the 8 minutes I think it is today. And it's not just when you have issues. You can also go there to get advice or to have some lifestyle coaching or whatever. It's really to accommodate your holistic lifestyle and not so much, I have pain and now you have to help me. We also see that employers are more and more taking over the role of a healthcare provider. We saw that with the big tech companies such as Amazon, as you can see on the right. They created this app which is called Amazon Care. And what you can do is then you can indeed, when there is something with you, you can contact a healthcare professional, or you can make appointments, or you can schedule stuff. You can measure your health during the day, and it's something that we see healthcare companies are taking up because they want people to be healthy. Of course, they want people to perform. So the longer you stay healthy, the better you can. So of course there is an underlying reason for it, but this upcoming thing is quite interesting that these kind of stakeholders are changing. What we also saw is that the infrastructure of cities changed, or at least in some of the bigger cities, cycling in Madrid is kind of difficult. But still, like here in Bogota, they started to create a cycling pass during COVID because, everybody had to stay in or there was not so much traffic. And this remained, so they kept it in place. But they also realized in these cities is that, especially during COVID, people really wanted to get access to green and get into a park or into a forest. But of course, if you live in a dense city such as Mexico City, there is not much green, and it showed that the access to green increased the quality of life, but also it really does something with your health, with your mental health. So a lot of cities took the opportunity to make more green for people and make it much more accessible. And that kind of the green bridges me to another topic, which is related to nature. A lot, of course, of the healthcare professionals were quite on a big workload. They were very stressed. They constantly had to perform, and they needed some sort of part in the job that made it possible for them to relax a bit or to recharge a bit. And this was a project that was done in a hospital, the Mount Sinai Hospital, which is quite a big one. And they started to experiment with creating a space for healthcare professionals to have their break. And then this, what you see here, is a screen. So it's not like a window, but it feels like a window. And they could watch nature images or like little videos about the sea in this case. Having typical light and having a moment to sit. And the interesting thing is that if you go to a forest, it has an impact on your mental health, But if you look at a picture of a forest, it's the same. So your brain cannot kind of distinguish the difference. So the effect is similar. And they started to, so after this test, it became clear that this is quite impactful. So they rolled it out to different hospitals as well. And yeah, that kind of brings it also to the digital part of it, the fake part. As a picture can be the same effect as the real. So it also forced us, COVID, to be much more digital, maybe more digital than we liked. And in healthcare, this meant that more like digital business models or digital services became much more important. It is something that we had to deal with, but it also kind of kick-started this, how we say, movement that more and more is becoming more digital of our lives. And it seems that we're not going back from that anymore. We're not going back again to that other time. And then, of course, telehealth is one of the, let's say, the biggest growths in healthcare after COVID. And even though it's not always the answer to everything, that also you sometimes have to see the doctor in real instead of behind a screen, it remained as well. So more and more services started to pop up, doctors giving that possibility. And for a lot of people who don't have so much access to healthcare, this is something interesting. It also kind of kick-started a new kind of profession, or at least a new way that doctors need to learn, is to give diagnosis from a screen, which not everybody is able to yet, or they're not trained in that way. Much more digital. As I said, it's much more part of our lives. And there was an interesting survey between youngsters, Generation Z, and they asked, so are you following an influencer that is not real? The percentage was 58%. So it also didn't matter for them, is this influencer a real person or not? And I'm Generation X, so I'm like super old. But the only one I recognize is this one, which is a top model. I think her name is Sutu. And she's working for all the magazines. And the runway shows that are digital.
None of them are real.
No. All of them are fake. Yeah, some of it are clear to see, but this doesn't look so bad. And it becomes much more difficult to distinguish. But that's the interesting thing for a generation like me. It's like, but that's not real. But for, let's say, Generation Alpha, which is now the youngest generation, doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's there, it exists. But that can also have like a different side of the coin, because if we are spending more time in the digital world, if we like the digital world a little bit better than our own world, that can also have negative effects to our mental health. It can also be that we become more addictive, that we maybe choose different avatars that represent ourselves in a better way, that we start to lose ourselves in our different identities. And that's already been recognized by a lot of psychiatrists in the world that say, I don't know if that is a good direction to go into. So we really have to see how this is impacting our mental health. I'm not sure if you've seen this. This is from a few years ago. There is this fashion brand in, I think they're located in Rotterdam. They're called Fabrikant. And they're creating digital gowns, digital fashion. So what you see here is not real. And this dress has been created online. It's like a code, like an NFT actually. And you can wear it if you are online. And they have auctioned the dress, I think it's a few years ago. And this influencer, which is real, she bought the dress for I think 9,000 euros. And she's wearing it online. And it's an interesting thing to see how they start to merge together. So how the real is merging with the digital. But then you can also see the advantage of it. you can wear something that can never exist in real life. But then again, we see the rising of some sort of a human downgrading. So more and more tasks are done for us. If we don't get we cannot find our phone, we get lost. Our attention span is decreasing. Maybe this movie is familiar, right? It's Wall-E from a very long time ago. And there you had these, also these people that, were only watching a screen and eating, I think. And it does something to us, and it's interesting to see what that would be, because we cannot really tell yet. But if everything is done for you, what does it to our brain? And there was already this research that especially the younger generation has difficulties with detecting emotions in faces, because they communicate via a screen. And I noticed myself, and maybe you did that too, during COVID, when you had all these Zoom calls and team calls, you have to do a lot of effort to read people, and it's a bit tiring. But for them, they do it via the screen, so they probably cannot detect anymore if someone is a bit upset or if they're happy. Our lives seem to be much more mediated and nudged. And it can even go in a direction like this. This exists, it's a surface. There is a video behind it, but that doesn't work right now. This girl has deceased, and this is her mother. And what they've done is that the surface takes all the data of the girl, pictures, maybe messages, her voice, and they recreate it in VR, and then the mother can interact with her daughter again. And that was for the mother, super emotional experience, even though she's not real. It gave her some comfort to be in. So it can really go that far that we even bring people back that are not into our lives anymore. And then, of course, metaverse, which is maybe still a bit unknown. And what does it mean for healthcare? But we thought it was interesting to follow. And the interesting thing with the metaverse is that it is again creating a virtual world, live in and interact, etc. It seems to copy the real world as we are in. So there is discrimination, there is racism, there is a divide in there, which is a bit, disappointing, I would say, because we could create something beautiful, but still we have to take something we know. I found this image quite intriguing. So when we turn this back to health, so experts see that all this nudging and is doing something for our mental health, and we really have to spend more time outside to detach ourselves a bit from, even delete Facebook, you never know. But it also shows that the younger generation actually want this. They want to digitally detox, even though we think they're always on screen. It says here that 50% out of 20 to 34-year-olds in the UK really want to digitally detox. That was already before COVID. So for a more calming state of mind, and this was of course not possible during COVID, is to go to a museum. And again, sitting in front of a nature image, giving you the same effect as going to a forest. It gives a moment of reflection for people. And what we did is that we have a partnership as Philips with the Rijksmuseum. We sponsor, but we also do different projects together. And the Rijksmuseum had a very interesting actie. They welcomed the 1 million visitor to their museum, and that 1 million visitor won a night in the museum by themselves. So they could sleep, they had dinner, they could have some, conversations with the paintings. And the guy who won, he was like, it was an amazing evening. He really liked it. Because it has this effect on people. There's so much to see in a painting, it's the atmosphere of the museum. It's actually linked to healthcare a lot. In terms of museums, because yeah, the Rijksmuseum is of course a classic museum, but what we also see more and more is that museums start to weave in these different digital experiences and more personalized experience. This is a museum in New York City. It's called the Museum of Future Experiences. And before you enter, you have to fill in some questions, and then when you go in, it is really your visit. It's different from everybody else. It has all these kind of different, virtual experiences in there that make that happen. It can also be translated, of course, to a more clinical environment, in this case a hospital, where you can also work with digital experiences or digital art. And this is a concept in a children's hospital where they worked with these images that move like the wind. So it's interesting for kids to see. They can interact, they can touch, and they can forget a bit about their disease at that moment. But also working with color, with different types of art. This was for a psychiatric hospital where they looked into each of the rooms. The rooms have a certain purpose, and then they designed actually the whole experience around it. And the colors should then really support the patients that are there and the activity that needs to be done there. This is much more of a commercial example. It is a VR experience that you can use for pain. So it shows all these different landscapes and sounds. It's a mindful escape, it gives you some education, it helps you with the breathing, so you can be somewhere else. And I hope this is working. Maybe, can you stop the video for a moment? So as I said, we have been working with the Rijksmuseum, Philips, and we really saw this opportunity of bringing in art, bringing in sound, all kinds of different experiences. And we started to bring that into the place where you will be scanned. And that's often, in an MR scanner, that's often quite stressful. It's better for the patient to be relaxed, because then the scanning is successful. So this was, I think, a few years ago, but I think it's very impactful. I hope it works.
Ik denk dat ik zo'n beetje 15 keer onder de MRI ben geweest. De eerste ervaring was gelijk de meest ernstige. Omdat je al angst inboezemt van wat je eventueel zou kunnen hebben. En dan nog in een benauwde kleine ruimte met de geluiden. Dat heeft mij enorm veel angst ingeboezemd. Dus ja, natuurlijk zie ik er tegenop.
Hi Peter, we know that music can help to make you more relaxed. So we produced the perfect composition to make the MRI experience more relaxing.
Well, but Peter will see, this selection of 9 artworks, paintings and drawings that we've made from the 17th to the 19th century in the Rijksmuseum collections. And we believe this kind of relaxing atmosphere will really help in this environment.
I'm convinced that the combination of music and art will change the experience of the patient significantly.
Ik hoop dat nu we de ambient experience hebben, dat de patiënten met een goed gevoel, zonder angst, terugkomen bij een volgende MRI-onderzoek.
Even anders dan andere keren, denk ik. Ja. Het is wel een hele andere ervaring. En het leidt af. Echt een hele grote verbetering. Dat mag ik echt wel zeggen. Echt super, ja.
Presentation. I hope I could give you an insight in the work that I do, seeing all these different signals, bringing them into our own company, and try to open a debate on what this means and how can we work with our new innovations and see what we need to prepare for the future. Thank you. And now it's time for questions, I think. Yeah. Are there any questions?
I have a remark. I know how also first made the technology round, and it's a wonderful solution to make it more of an environment for people to feel relaxed in. But actually, the music and the pictures remind very much of Soylent Green. And in Soylent Green, it's a brilliant movie, and the one who is seeing the pictures of nature, because nature's dead, and hearing this music is dying. So everybody who has seen a movie would be anxious or laughing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you never seen it?
No, I've never seen it either.
Brilliant movie.
It's a brilliant
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Cookie Factory.
It's just.
That's a spoiler. Okay.
And that brings me also to a question. How people perceive things is very much a part of how they live their lives and
Yeah.
So are there also is there also research how this translates, for instance, in Indian culture or other cultures?
Yeah, so I need to repeat the question, otherwise they don't hear it. So it sounds like, yeah. So you're asking if there's also how people in different cultures are perceiving this. Yeah, that's research that we do, because you cannot take a solution that works only in the Netherlands. You can scale it to other countries without taking into account the culture. And that's also the advantage. We have all these different teams worldwide that will also help us to think of, yeah, for maybe a Dutch person, this is very beneficial. But for a person in Saudi Arabia, this is almost like an insult. So you have to really test it in the right environment and know what the culture is and what the do's and the don'ts are. So that's definitely research that we do within experience design.
In the beginning of the presentation, you told us that you have the ambition to improve life of 3 billion people in 2030. So I know there are competitors, and of course has to be some years, but why not go for 8 billion people in 2040 or 9 billion probably at the time?
Yeah, that I cannot say anything about, because that was not my decision to make. You have to start, and I think the essence of the message is we just want to reach as much people as possible, and true, but it's.
But that should not be 2033, right?
Oh yeah, I should have repeated. So the number I don't know. I don't know.
Well, maybe the number at the time the mission was created was 3 billion people in the world.
No. No, that's a very long time ago.
2017, that mission already existed, so 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was more than 3 billion people, but still.
Okay, you had a question.
So thanks for the interesting presentation. So most of these solutions you presented have a focus on audiovisual media, which is the same what we call digital today. I guess you also work with other senses of human, like haptic perception or smell.
The question is about if we also incorporate other senses. We do, but some of them are not so easy to measure. So and also stuff like music and color is very personal also. So, and we have to clinically prove it as well. So that makes it quite challenging. And if I go back to the art one with the Rijksmuseum, we did some research in what evidence is there that art has an impact on our health. And there is evidence, but it's very scattered and it's all in different contexts and all with different groups of people. So to make this kind of an average result, where we could say, 5,000 people respond very positively to this, is at this moment not possible. But there is definitely a potential in bringing all these different senses in, because it shows that there is improvement. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there.
So your work is based on hypothesis testing. You have to be able to formulate a hypothesis that can be tested.
We work with concepts, so together with business and with different stakeholders, we think of, let's say, new opportunities and what kind of innovations you could bring in. Yeah, and then of course we need to test it. We need to see if this indeed has the effect that we want to have, but also if it's something that is feasible because it needs to go to a certain market. So it's quite an extensive route, but there is a lot of testing done, yes, because it's necessary. Yeah. Oh.
I want to continue on this subject of the multiples, because you also said that watching the screen of the forest tricks our brain in the same experience as being inside the forest. To me, it's because when I'm inside the forest, I can see the forest, of course. I can see the forest, probably have some sounds with it, but also I can feel the moisture inside, so I can smell the forest, I can feel the trees, the leaves, I can feel whispering below my trees. And you don't have that experience watching the screen.
Yeah. Your question is about the different experiences and what is much more, how do you say, plezierig, what is much more nice to have. Yeah, of course. So indeed, if you are in a forest, then you have the total experience and it can be much more pleasant than just watching a picture. But what's happening inside your brain is on the same level, even though you don't have that feeling in a way. But it's the registration that happens that brings the same dynamic in place. And they did some tests with people, and this is, there is evidence of that. Of course, I would like to be in a forest as well, better than a picture. But you can imagine that in some cities, like really dense cities, and you want to do something with the clinical environment to make it much more pleasant, and there is no daylight or there is no, then you have to do something, and then perhaps this is a good option.
But just to add, sorry to go through that with both, there was a research done that actually the sense of sight is the most developed in us, and that's why we get this effect. And that's why there's so much going on with visualization and imagery, because it's the sense which we are the most attuned to. And we react to more, apparently, compared to smell and sound, etc.
I'm not sure whether I would agree.
It's a research I read, I'm not
you know, that it's rather complex. And then also people also overthink this idea far more than that. So temperature, for instance, in the medical environment comes to my mind. I know for a fact that the ultrasonic heads, they are heated to be, not too cold when they touch the skin.
Yeah, yeah.
And with that you can maybe enhance such an experience. So yes, I recognize of course that visually.
Yeah. Yeah, and with smell it's often difficult because it's the closest, it immediately responds to the brain and it triggers memories.
Yeah.
So that's why smell is super personal. Yeah. Sorry.
I assume that record smells on the rest, because you look at that and you that smell. Did you try?
So the question is if we did test with people who...
A sample of people or a person?
I'm not aware of. I'm not aware of. I don't know. No. There was a question here. Oh. Derek.
You mentioned these influences that are not real, but are still very influential among the generation. So who or what actually are they? Because these were pictures of, well, apart from the top one, these were pictures of real people, right or not?
No. They're all fake. Yeah.
But what's behind them?
It's a program. It's an algorithm. And there's a whole team behind them.
Yeah, so it's a team. So it's a team.
Yeah.
So it's not one person, not one person with another.
No, it's not one. It's a team. It's a team. It's an algorithm. It's almost like a business in a way. There are already fake newsreaders in China. They did tests with that, and people responded very positive to them. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is our perception that this is bad, but a puppeteer is doing something similar. An illusion, appears on stage or cinema.
Yeah, and it's very generational. Huh? Yeah. So we still know the world without digital. So for us, it's like, but that's not real. But for my daughters, it's like, who cares?
It's also not really right.
Sorry?
If I would have shown a photo of a dead person to a person from medieval times, that would have been witchcraft for them.
Yeah.
Like for us, maybe this VR.
Yeah, maybe the scary part is that you cannot really distinguish it anymore. If it's almost real, perhaps that's a scary thing. And I think, especially now, it's much more also difficult to detect if news items are real or not. So what is the real information you get? And that's maybe then the scary part of what are they telling me?
But isn't the real scary part that it's all about representation? And the real scary part is that it's all about quantified representation, even in the things that you read in the patients, for example. So what we are creating is a quantified world in which you are behaving according to the quantification, not to the whole possibilities of... You give the example yourself, so when you say, well, sight is easy, but the thing that goes with smell, that's difficult to read, and that means that you leave it out. But maybe you are leaving out something that is essential.
Yeah.
So I think that keeping that in mind, that you are always just taking your pick of the things that you are able to use and instrumentalize.
Yeah, and I guess that's also a bit of the challenge now, because of all the innovation, the speed of innovation, and we more and more try to keep up instead of like, so what does it actually do for us? The let's say the reason why is sometimes a bit gone.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Coming back to the mission of serving 3 billion people worldwide on the level of health and quality of life. The Philips part is, well, I work there, so that's quite clear for me. But some of the other parts addressing health, but especially quality of life, will be brought in by other companies, I guess. That's not the speciality of Philips, the expertise of Philips. Can you say something about a more holistic approach to make this a clear picture for...
I'm not sure how to repeat the question.
Well,
so
I remember the customer journeys were starting at the early 90s, where you stepped out of the fact of that design was styling. So the responsibility of us as Philips Design was the outside of the lacquer layer of a CT scanner or something. But then we started to think about who are the people who are coming to the hospital in 2 weeks' time and what's changing in their home environment.
Yeah.
So we talk to the kids and the parents, etc., etc. Being away from home gives you some sorrows and problems that needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah.
So we did some projects dealing with that. Can you say something about those activities, working with other companies and partners to make it?
Yeah. Okay. So how, if we collaborate together with other partners and bringing more that holistic part in. For some, yes, we partner up with different different companies or even academies or universities. And when it comes to the holistic part, I think the whole development of these journeys as a way of bringing all these different parties together, different stakeholders, users, patients, but even a community, people that are in the community, that we see that it's not just happening in the hospital per se. It's indeed, someone has to take care of the cat, or because I went through this cancer treatment, I'm actually in financial, I have financial problems. So there is a whole world around, and we with the different teams that we work with, we try to visualize that world. We try to bring that world alive. And it's not that that we then have to act everywhere as Philips, because we can't, but it's to really see, okay, if we do an intervention here in the journey, will this not cause a problem somewhere else? And is that something that we can already foresee? So having already that overview, that landscape is very helpful. Does that answer your question a bit? Any more questions?
Is there a really big change, except for the adaptation of the digitalization, between the way we are working before and after COVID? If there is a big difference between the use of digital before and after, that is what you mean, or? In general.
In general.
But you see what you take into account.
Yeah, I think because of COVID, we were forced all of a sudden to do something with digital. And what we saw before was that there were opportunities, but it was not always necessary. So a lot of the, especially kind of the telehealth options, they were there, but they were sometimes not reimbursed. So then specialists would not make use of it because it was just not beneficial for them. But because of COVID, we had to. And then you saw that things were possible all of a sudden, and that it was possible to create a system like that. So it opened the door for a lot of digital services, and we're not going back to that anymore. So back how it was. But still, what we do see is that a lot of specialists or clinicians, they look into, but is this really giving us the benefit now that now we can see our patients again? And then you see that a lot of specialists still value the face-to-face meetings. So then they would say, but for, let's say, the routine kind of things, we will do a video call. But when there is something like really complicated, we ask the patient to come. So then you can really start to evaluate when is digital useful and when is digital not useful. And we had a learning period of more than 2 years to figure that out.
And next to that, if you showed the imaginary influencers, you can also have imaginary doctors, as we can talk to.
And you have health bots.
How is the confidence of patients in those?
Yeah, it depends a bit on the patient, of course, and it depends on how empowered they want to be. So some patients would really like to take control of their health journey. They would like to figure everything out and be in control. And others, they just want to hear the doctor and they do whatever the doctor says. That's two extremes. So for some people, having a health bot in between is perfect, because it will tell them you have to go to the doctor now or you don't, just wait for a few days. But for others, it's a bit more difficult. So it really depends on the person, but the health bot has been introduced in many places already, and it's almost like a barrier, because it's not that everybody needs to go to the doctor sometimes, so they can filter them out, like say, okay, those don't have to go and those really have to come. So make the time more beneficial.
Hypochonder.
Yeah.
For now, at least the formal bit. Thank you for your lovely presentation and giving lots of insight on this, the world we're living in, health-wise. Thank you all for being here. I warmly invite you to have a drink. We'll do it here. I'll open the door a little, so we will have a bit more space to move around, and I'll move the chairs. If you want to drink, let me know. I will make sure something is ordered for you. If you do sort of stand outside in the hallway, please make sure to not put the glasses on the design displays. And you will also have the option to stay for the meetup table. We're offering a ravioli with pasta. You can also let me know if you're interested. But for now, feel free to carry on chatting a little bit about the subject or anything else. This is the last Innovation Café of this year. We're taking a little winter break. But we will be back again on the 16th of January for New Year's drinks, and then from then onwards we'll be doing more presentations each Thursday. But for now, have a wonderful evening and happy holidays.
Hey, you're still here. So you like the video. If you want, subscribe and click the bell.